Hello, good morning, and happy Tuesday. I'm doing something a little bit different today. I normally only go live inside my group. My group is called the Visibility Workshop, and I go live in there at least twice a week and try to give tips and tricks to people about becoming more visible, getting guest blogs, getting interviewed on podcasts, getting TV and radio appearances, quoted in the media, sort of anything you can do to put yourself out there publicly. And I decided today I would go live here on my business page instead, just to try it out and see how it goes. I've been doing Facebook Live for a couple of months now, but have only been, I guess, really regular for the last, 6 weeks or so. And like I said, I always go on in the group, so I wanted to try the page today. If you are here, definitely say hi so that I can see who's here. I would love to know who's here and where you're from and what your business is all about. I'm so excited to get to know everybody. But today I wanted to talk about a question I get a lot, particularly when I get on the phone with potential clients. So I've gotten this question a few times in the last week on calls with potential clients, and I thought, you know what, when you get a question over and over, that's when you should make sure that you write a guest blog or you do a podcast on it or you do a Facebook Live. So I'm all about handling frequently asked questions, and this one is about how long it takes to get publicity. And that's a great question. And it's hard to quantify. I know that's not the answer you're going to be looking for, but I'm going to give you some examples from some things that I've pitched recently and how long it's taken to hear back on those things, how long it's taken for those things to actually appear online, just to give you an idea of what some of the timetables look like. I never promise clients a timeline for these sorts of things. I talk about best practices. I talk about what usually happens when we pitch clients for these opportunities, but it's just impossible to say, an exact timeline for those kind of things. So all I can do is give you examples and we will go from there. And if you have any questions while I am going through this, I will be watching. If you see me look down, it's because that's where the comments and the questions are coming in. And I would be happy to answer absolutely any questions that you have. And if it's different from this topic, then leave the question anyway, and maybe it's something that I can address in a future Facebook Live. Okay. So how long does it take to get publicity opportunities? Let's start with guest blogs. That's a starting point for a lot of people who come to me. Some people have already done guest blogs and they want more, or they want to go to bigger and better outlets. And let's not say better, that's probably not a nice thing to say, but bigger outlets. Or just, those publications that are sort of their dream publication. Sometimes that's something huge like a Forbes, Entrepreneur, Inc., something like that. Sometimes it's a trade publication because, to be quite honest, sometimes it's better to be in a highly targeted, smaller publication than it is to be on something big. It honestly depends on what your topic is and who your ideal client is, who you're trying to attract with the piece that you're writing. So for guest blogs, we can get guest blogs picked up sometimes in under 24 hours. And sometimes it takes weeks. So I always try to talk to the client about strategy. So for example, I have one client right now who has written some on her own blog and has written some for Huffington Post. And the things that she had written for Huffington Post before she came to work with us weren't necessarily on topic for what she wants to do going forward. They weren't necessarily going to attract the type of clients she's trying to attract. So we worked with her on strategy and talked about the types of topics she needed to be blogging about. And she wants to ultimately blog for somewhere like Forbes, Entrepreneur, Inc., one of those types of publications. And I was quite honest with her and I told her we were going to have to send them clips. And I don't like to send clips to an outlet that size that are only from your own website. Now, that's not to say that it's impossible to get picked up if those are the only clips you have. As a matter of fact, one of my clients, Katie Zimmerman, who if you followed this page for very long, you've seen me talk about, she did land a paid contributor role with Forbes when we first started working together based solely on her own blog that was on her own website. So it can happen, but if we want to put together the strongest pitch possible for a place like Forbes, we want to have clips from other outlets. So I told my client who has access to post on Huffington Post, let's post some really targeted things that are in this niche where you're trying to develop your expertise. And then we can use those clips to pitch you for Forbes. So we spent the last couple of weeks sort of seeding a couple of articles on Huffington Post. We had her send us some newsletters that she had already sent out. We had her send us some really good Facebook posts she'd had, and we helped her turn those into longer blog posts that we could then put on Huffington Post for her. So now that we've done a couple of those, I actually just spoke to her right before I came on live today, and we are going to pitch her for one of those bigger outlets now. So I'll take the clips from Huffington and maybe even a couple of clips from her own website, and I will go pitch her to an editor I know at one of those bigger outlets, because now I feel like we have enough to show her expertise and to show the types of topics that she can write on for them. So I expect that because I know the editor that I can get a response back probably in 24 to 48 hours. I mean, that's no guarantee, but I think because we are actually pitching to an editor, I know that I will hear back that quickly. We had a client, I think it was late last week, a different client, Laura Marquis, who you've probably seen me post about on the page, who has a cookbook, and her book is coming out September 1st. So we're trying to get a lot of opportunities leading up to and around the release date. And we pitched on quite a few vegan blogs because her cookbook is all desserts that are sugar-free, dairy-free, and gluten-free. And so they really appeal to a vegan audience. And we wanted to get on some vegan blogs in addition to a lot of other things we're doing for her. And we wanted to get some recipes posted from the book around the launch of the book. So we sent out probably a dozen different requests last week, and we've already landed 2 of those, I would say, in under a week. One has actually already posted. It was accepted and posted, I think, within 48 hours. The other has been accepted but not posted yet. The others we haven't heard back from yet. So it really varies. Sometimes on guest blogs, you get a response like that, especially if you know an editor. I did not know any of the editors for the vegan blogs, but for business blogs, I often do know the editors because I do so much writing in that space, so I can pitch to my own editors for my clients. So those responses tend to be faster. If it's an outlet where we don't have connections, where we're trying to create connections, you know, the time is a little longer. So my personal thought on it is you wait a week or 2 to follow up. You wait another week or 2 and follow up again, because you don't necessarily want to pitch the same topic to multiple blogs, because if 2 or more of them accept, they're not going to want to publish the same thing that another outlet is publishing. And so I usually send kind of a final email, or if I am able to get a hold of them by phone, and say, you know, if you're not interested, we understand. We'd like to take this topic somewhere else. That way they sort of have notice that we're going to take it and go pitch it somewhere else. So with guest blogs, the answer can be incredibly quick, within 24 to 48 hours, or it can be a few weeks. You can still get a yes in a few weeks. Just because you didn't hear back in 24 or 48 hours does not mean they're going to say no. Especially when we're talking about bigger publications, you have to keep in mind how many pitches they're getting a day, and it can take some time. I'll take that to lead into magazines. Magazine editors get an insane number of pitches every day. I have worked pretty closely with Glamour for a while. I had a piece in Glamour last August, actually. Haven't had a piece since then, but honestly, I haven't pitched a piece since then. It was my dream to get in Glamour, and I was able to get in. And along the way, I developed a relationship with the editor at Glamour that I pitched to. And I talked to her about how many pitches she gets in her inbox every day. And between press releases and direct pitches, she's getting hundreds of emails a day. And she told me she just scans through the subject lines and doesn't even open a lot of them. And so she's either got to know your name, or you've got to have a really compelling subject line for her to click on it and read your pitch. And she told me that if I don't hear back from her within a couple of days, email her again, because sometimes she goes through the list so fast, she misses legitimate things. So keep in mind that they're getting a lot of requests. You also don't want to bug them. You don't want to follow up 24 or 48 hours later, unless you have a relationship with them and they've said that's okay, and say, hey, did you get my pitch? That's a little annoying. Unless you've got time-sensitive news that you're pitching, you don't want to follow up that quickly. I think you wait a week or 2. My policy is a little bit different depending on where I'm pitching as to how long I wait. If it's an editor I know, usually a week. If it's an editor I don't know, I might wait 2 weeks, again, unless it's timely news where I need an answer pretty immediately. Magazine pitches, you're pitching really far out, so the lead time is long. My cookbook author, Laura, we are pitching her for, well, we've actually already pitched her for holiday issues, because most of the holiday issues around Thanksgiving and Christmas actually close out in August and September at the latest, but most of them are really closing in August. Some of them actually closed in July, so maybe that's where the term Christmas in July comes from. For Super Bowl and Valentine's recipes, we're actually pitching those for her now. We have one outlet that specifically asked us for Valentine's recipes. It's August and they want our Valentine's pitches already. So the lead time on landing a magazine article is really long. So I was on the phone with a potential client yesterday and she asked if she were to do a magazine article, how soon could she expect to have one? And I said, well, we might get an answer back within the first month that we're working together, but it's probably not going to be published for 3 to 6 months. And 3 months is really a short time. It would probably be more like 4, 5, 6 months. So long lead times. Speaking engagements can be the same way. Really long lead times sometimes on speaking engagements, particularly when we're talking about big conferences or corporate events, because those are planned so far in advance. So I was looking for some conferences for a client the other day, and they're taking submissions right now for conferences that are next May and June, okay? Some conferences really do cut off their proposal date a year in advance of the conference because of the materials that they have to generate in order to promote the conference. So, for example, I'm speaking at a conference in September for travel writers, and they booked me for that at the beginning of this calendar year. So I've had that on my plate for a long time. The event actually sold out like 2 months ago, and it's not till September. So the lead time on conferences is really long. Same thing for corporate events. Usually if you're getting booked for like an annual event or a retreat, something like that, the lead times again can be a full year. So when people ask me how quickly they can get me speaking, or how quickly we can get them speaking engagements, I ask, what kind of speaking engagement are you looking for? Because that's really going to dictate how long it takes us. Now, I can probably get you a speaking engagement at a college, in a classroom, or with a student organization, or with a local entrepreneur group in the next couple months. I mean, we can maybe land it, and I can tell you you have it in a few weeks, and it might be next month. So the lead times on those sorts of things are shorter. My cookbook author, Laura, we landed her some opportunities with some vegan cooking clubs in the area where she lives. Those people replied back to us within a day or two. And then they were booking the events like a month, 6 weeks out, something like that. So the lead times really vary depending on what type of event you are trying to do. Okay, so we've done guest blogs, magazines, speaking engagements, TV. TV can really vary too. So I have a client I pitched last week, and we had a yes within 2 hours. I had another client I pitched last week that I haven't heard back anything on, and I have now followed up with the booker for that show. So that can vary. I pitched Laura, who I've talked about a few times now, for a cooking segment. I pitched her in like mid-July. We started working together, I think the beginning of July. I pitched her within like a week or two of us working together for TV. We didn't hear back for 3 weeks, even though we followed up. I did not have a previous existing relationship with that TV station, so it was kind of a cold pitch. Followed up, but didn't hear back for 3 weeks. And then when we heard back, say like Tuesday afternoon, and they wanted her on Wednesday morning. Okay, so it took 3 weeks to hear back, and then they wanted her on in less than 24 hours. So it really can run the gamut. Again, just because you don't hear back on the first day or two doesn't mean they're going to say no. It can really vary from market to market, station to station, how many pitches they get. It's tough this time of year, and I would say the last few weeks. July is a big travel month for people. I've been getting a lot of out-of-office messages. I've had a lot of bookers and producers where I didn't get an out-of-office message, and then when I called to follow up, I found out they were out of town on vacation and just didn't put out an out-of-office message. Okay, then they get back, and their inbox is absolutely slammed. So we're following up at regular intervals with these people because we want to make sure we didn't get lost in their inbox. I follow up by phone in case they didn't get the email at all, and also because I can build a better relationship with somebody over the phone. So, we're constantly pitching and following up, and just because we don't land something in the first day or two doesn't mean you're not going to get it, but it definitely makes it difficult to tell a potential client on the phone how soon they can expect to have something. Sometimes I can tell them that I know I'll hear back pretty quickly because I already have a relationship with the editor or the booker, and I know that they will get back to me within a day or two. But when we're pitching someone we don't know, and we have clients all over the country, and we're constantly pitching in new markets, and I love that. I love pitching in new markets and developing new relationships. that can take a little more lead time. But once you develop that relationship, once you've, guest blogged for them once, or you've gone on TV with them once, it is so much easier to pitch them in the future. So even though it takes us a little bit of time to pitch it that first time, we can usually get you on the second and the third and the fourth time a whole lot faster. So there's a little bit of like a slow build when we start working with people, and then we can start landing things much faster. So if you watch the page and you see me posting things for clients, you probably noticed that I post a lot for Dr. DePasquale, who is a client I've had since November. So we've had a long time to build a relationship with the outlets we're pitching to. When I pitch her for TV, we usually get an answer in an hour or two, and she goes on one station pretty much once a month now. They don't want to be pitched more often than that, but they're pretty happy to have her on once a month. And so we get the answers back to those pitches pretty quickly. So the longer we work with somebody, the faster we can land things. But we definitely hope that our clients are patient with us in the first month or two as we get to know their story and start writing the pitches and start developing those relationships if they're in places that we don't already have the relationships. And we're happy to build those. If you're someone who is only interested in local media, if you've got a brick and mortar location, or there's some other reason that it's important for you really just to be local and you're not looking to grow and get into national publications, you might honestly be better off with a publicity or a PR person. Excuse me, I think I'm going to sneeze. A publicity or a PR person who's in your local market, because they'll already have those relationships. I have no problem telling you that I might not be the right fit for you. I'm the right fit for somebody who does want to grow, who wants to establish themselves as an expert in their industry or in their niche on a much broader scale, whether that's national or international. I want to create relationships all over the country for people and get them into national publications, onto national radio and TV, national podcasts that have, huge listener bases. So I'm the right type of publicist for that person. But I'm definitely not here to tell you I'm the right for everyone. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I'm sorry that I can't give you, exact answers and say, if we want a guest blog, you can get an answer in 2 days. If you want a TV segment, we can get you on in a week. I just don't think it works like that. If you work with a local person and they're telling you they know you, they can get you X, Y, Z locally, they're probably telling the truth. They probably have the relationships and the ability to land those things pretty quickly. I don't think it's a sure thing with anyone, but I do think that they can maybe give you a better idea. But if you're talking about doing something on a broader scale, I do think that you've got to be a little more patient. And again, like I said, once you start landing opportunities, it's easy to start piggybacking off of those opportunities. Not only do you build the relationships with the bookers and the editors that you can leverage again and again, but you can take those opportunities and leverage them for bigger opportunities. So it really is like, the snowball rolling down the hill that gets bigger and bigger. As it goes down, it does get easier and faster the longer we work together and the more relationships we create. So I don't require my clients to sign with me really for a minimum amount of time. I don't require a 3 or a 6 or a 12-month commitment. I probably should require at least 3 months, because that's probably how long it takes for us to really hit our stride and be nailing stuff all the time. But I feel like if I can just work with people, that they start to feel comfortable with me, they know how much I'm pitching them. For every single one of my clients, I keep a pitch spreadsheet that they can access at any time through Dropbox, and they can see absolutely everywhere we've pitched them, what angle we pitched them for, any response that we've received back about that. So they know we're doing work. They know we're out there actively pitching on their behalf. As we get responses and answers, we're forwarding those to clients. We're not hiding the ball. We tell you what we're doing and what we're working on. So I feel confident that once people get in the door with us, they know how hard we're working. They know how hard we're trying to sell their story, how many outlets we're pitching to. So I don't require that minimum commitment from people. And knock on wood, haven't really had anyone leave us. So I think we do a pretty good job. If you have any questions at all about pitching and timetables and that sort of thing, feel free to leave it here. I will come back and check the comments later. And I thank everybody who joined us live today and everyone who's going to watch on the replay. And if you have ideas for future segments, if there's something you want to hear me talk about, leave that in the comments as well, and I will be happy to address it in a future Facebook Live. I hope everybody has a fantastic Tuesday. Thanks again for joining me, and I will see you again soon.